It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
In Switzerland, police are still looking for the man responsible for a shooting at a mosque in Zurich. 3 people were wounded after a gunman stormed into the prayer hall of a mosque and opened fire. 2 of the victims were severely injured. The gunman fled the scene and the mosque was cordoned off. Now, witnesses say the attacker was dressed in black and is believed to be about 30 years old. Police also confirmed on social media that a dead body was found near the mosque, but authorities say that this attack isn't being considered as an act of extremism.
Russian Ambassador Andrei Karlov was shot dead in a horrific attack in Turkey by a terrorist upset that Russia had just wiped out jihadist rebels Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Aleppo. The gunman, a 22-year-old Turkish police officer, confirmed that he was a member of the Religion of Peace by yelling Allah Akbar twice immediately after the shooting. He also pledged allegiance to Muhammad in his jihad. Nothing to do with Islam then. Reports are circulating that Barack Obama immediately ordered weapons to be delivered to the moderate terrorist who shot the ambassador. But seriously, within an hour of the shooting, CNN contributors were humanizing the terrorist, saying he was just emotional and legitimately upset about jihadists being defeated in Aleppo. The gunman also shouted that the attack was revenge for Aleppo. Did the mainstream media's fake news about Russian atrocities in Aleppo inspire and radicalize the gunman in Turkey? While Syrians were dancing in the streets of Aleppo, thanking Russia and Assad for liberating them from ISIS and the moderate rebels, the likes of CNN and BBC were reporting lurid stories of massacres with no evidence whatsoever. Someone told them it happened, so they ran with it.
If they stay at home, they could be killed.
Tens of thousands of people remain besieged, trapped in the war zone.
And the source is, well, someone told them. That's it. Very little of what you see in the Western media about Aleppo is verified. After all, they've got no one on the ground. What they do have are exaggerated headlines.
Jihadist supporters posing as independent bloggers were posting death scenes from music videos and claiming they were from Aleppo.
This picture, for example, was taken from a music video and sold as an image of what's happening in Aleppo.
Did the mainstream media's obsessive Russophobia in the aftermath of more baseless claims about Russia hacking the election emboldened the terrorist? Over the last week, we've seen Islamists protesting in London for the same cause as the Turkish gunman, waving Taliban flags as they chant Allah Akbar. Worrying numbers of migrants now pouring into Europe are also openly sympathetic towards ISIS. The Obama administration has legitimized this kind of terror for the past 5 years, arming and funding rebel jihadists in Libya and Syria. The media is going to claim that this terrorist has nothing to do with Turkey, despite the fact that pro-government Turkish media mouthpieces described the gunman as a martyr, and Turkey itself is a state sponsor of ISIS. Remember, last year, Turkey demanded that Russia stop killing ISIS militants in Syria. Turkey has been caught directly arming and bankrolling ISIS on numerous occasions. This is a country whose soccer fans booed the victims of the ISIS-led slaughter in Paris. Turkey buys and sells ISIS oil. They allow ISIS oil trucks to pass back and forth between Turkey and Syria. Their president is an Islamist tyrant. Turkey supports ISIS because they share the same goal of a new Islamist empire in the Middle East. When are we going to stop aligning with Islamist countries that export Sunni Wahhabi terrorism? Why is Turkey allowed to be part of NATO? Why are we on the same side as so-called moderate Syrian opposition groups that are celebrating this brutal attack?
Die Polizei bittet jetzt Leute, die nichts gesehen haben, zu gehen, und alle Zeugen werden jetzt zu ihm gerufen.
I guess we're not talking, I don't know. It's a truck. Look at this.
How many trucks need to be ploughed through innocent people before we acknowledge that Islam is not a religion of peace? But this is just a truck crash, says CNN. Not an attack, and definitely nothing to do with Islam. While according to the BBC, a lorry was to blame for the attack. Give me a break. How many terror attacks do we need to see in Germany before Angela Merkel reverses her disastrous open-door migrant policy? This wasn't hard to predict. I said nearly a month ago that Christmas markets in Europe would be attacked. This is an attack on Christianity itself. So what's Germany going to do about it? Ban trucks? Erect barriers around everything? How about not importing terrorists?
So, in a statement, the president-elect says this, in part, ISIS and other Islamist terrorists continually slaughter Christians in their communities and places of worship as part of their global jihad. These terrorists and their regional and worldwide networks must be eradicated from the face of the earth, a mission we will carry out with all freedom-loving partners.
People are waking up to news of 3 bloody incidents from around the world overnight. The Russian ambassador to Turkey has been killed. He was shot in the back while giving a speech in Ankara. The gunman is said to be an off-duty police officer. And over in Germany, a truck ploughed into a crowded Christmas market in Berlin, killing at least 12 people and injuring many more. And then in Switzerland, a man stormed into a Zurich mosque and opened fire. 3 people are injured. A Turkish diplomat says foreign ministers from Russia, Turkey and Iran, set to meet on Tuesday in Moscow, will discuss the evacuation of Aleppo. He says Turkey won't accept refugees from Aleppo, but will help to build camps for them near the Turkish border to northern Syria.
North China's Shanxi province has been covered in serious smog this winter. Authorities have been issuing serious warnings and adopting tougher measures to cope.
Similar to the situation in Beijing, Taiyuan, the capital of North China's Shanxi province, has been shrouded in thick smog, separating the city from clear blue skies. Taiyuan and many other cities in the province have been suffering from severe air pollution since the beginning of winter. So far, many warnings and alerts have been issued throughout the province, and tougher measures have been taken to combat polluted air. The Provincial Environmental Protection Department has announced that the number of vehicles in Taiyuan, Yuncheng, Jingzhong, and Rincheng will be restricted based on license plate numbers from Friday through to Wednesday. The vehicle restrictions have put pressure on the local public transport system.
Here at the Peace River Wildlife Center in Punta Gorda, they deal with red tide each year, but they tell me this is one of the worst years they've ever seen it, and they're nearly full of patients that are affected by red tide. Veterinarians at the center have their hands full thanks to red tide.
Our hospital, almost all of our cages are full right now.
Dr. Robin Jenkins is helping to treat dozens of birds who are very sick from eating fish that died from red tide. The toxins can paralyze them.
Eventually, they're not even able to breathe. So, it kills them kind of slowly.
Okun Alpha used to be a tourist haven. Thousands would come here for its beach. The beach is all but gone, and the tourists have gone too. It means hard times for the locals, but the future looks even worse.
The World Wildlife Fund says 163 new species were discovered last year in the ecologically diverse Mekong region. Among them, a rainbow-headed snake, a tiny frog, and a lizard with dragon-like horns.
Turkeys are normally the ones who should be afraid at Christmas, but in South Korea this year it's their chicken population. 1/5 of them slaughtered since mid-November, and the worst ever bird flu epidemic there likely to claim many more. Most of them are egg-laying hens, their shortage now driving prices skywards and leaving experts in a bit of a flap.
Four more officials are being charged over the Flint, Michigan water crisis. 2 former state emergency managers and 2 former Flint city executives are now facing felony charges. Prosecutors say they failed to protect residents from health hazards caused by contaminated drinking water. Michigan's Attorney General explained in a press conference why he's continuing to bring new charges.
All too prevalent and very evident during the course of this investigation has been a fixation on finances and balance sheets. This fixation has cost lives. This fixation came at the expense of protecting the health and safety of Flint. It's all about numbers over people, money over health.
You've heard the quote, "If you can imagine it, you can achieve it." Rarely has that saying been this tangible.
Surreal's a pretty good word for it, yeah.
U of M PhD student Brad Edelman is controlling this robotic arm simply through his thoughts.
So I'm not thinking about telling my arm to move left, right, up, down. I just think, go towards that object.
Right now, it's moving boxes, but down the road, the goal is to use it for everyday operations like eating and answering emails.
So the long-term motivation is really to help the patient who are paralyzed or disabled.
But unlike similar devices currently being tested, this research is unique. It's non-invasive and poses little risk, as it doesn't require a brain implant. The U of M says the technique will potentially help millions.
The patient on the wheelchair, they cannot move. ALS patient cannot control any of the muscles.
I can imagine it would be infinitely more rewarding for them than it is for me. We kind of all take these actions for granted.
Throughout the entire 2016 election, we've had these moments where people who were really opposed to Donald Trump felt like they saw a last-ditch opportunity to stop him, first from becoming the Republican nominee, then from becoming president, and people looked at this voting of the Electoral College as maybe the last opportunity that they had to stop him. Well, they were unable to do that. And it really is no surprise. If the electors had voted in ways that didn't reflect the will of the people in the states that they represent, we actually would be talking about quite a shift in American democracy. This would have been something much bigger than Donald Trump's election himself. But Donald Trump is officially our president on January 20th. There is no stopping it now. And I think that what we're going to see is both Donald Trump and the country now turning to what his presidency is going to look like. He is almost done putting together his cabinet, so we have a good sense of who will be surrounding him if those folks are able to be confirmed by the Senate. Trump is putting his finishing touches on his White House staff, the people who will be around him day to day. His family is figuring out their roles, both potentially in the administration and in his business. And around the world, we're seeing all of these major issues pop up that are very quickly going to end up in his lap. And so now that the electors have voted, I think it is time for everyone to move past the political process, move into the Trump presidency. Only a few more weeks to go, and certainly a lot that will be on the president's plate when he takes office.
Some undocumented parents of American-born kids are now rushing to get their children Mexican citizenships.
Want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite.
In a time of domestic crisis, men of goodwill and generosity should be able to unite regardless of party or politics.